At first, nobody notices it, not even you. It begins with the way you linger at the window a little longer than you used to, not really focusing on anything in particular. You just stand there in silence. You tell yourself you're waiting for the kettle to boil or checking if the mail has arrived. But truly, something deeper has taken hold, and it makes no sound at all. After 65, something a bit strange takes place. You stop shouting your thoughts. You no longer rush to pick up the phone or fight to make your point. A kind of hush settles over your daily routines, as if your inner self has switched from broadcasting to whispering. And most people miss what those whispers are trying to say. Take the first habit. It slips in so softly you'd swear it was always part of you. You start rereading books, old ones, stories where you already know the ending. To some, that might look like laziness or a failing memory. But it's not. It's the comfort of certainty. The world keeps shifting too quickly, too noisily. But when you go back to a familiar page, the words never betray you. You already know who lives, who dies, who wins the love or saves the town. In a life full of unknowns, aches, appointments, and misplaced keys, that kind of certainty is priceless. Then comes the second habit, just as quiet, just as easy to overlook. You begin turning down invitations. Not all the time, just more often. There was a time you'd go to every event, big or small. But now, somewhere inside, you look at the invite and think, I'm already tired. It's not that you've stopped liking people. It's that your time now feels precious. You've earned the right to be selective with your energy. And let's face it, after 65, peace starts to taste better than popularity. Third, you start fixing little things around the house that nobody else notices. The loose cabinet hinge, the crooked picture frame, the door that squeaks. Not because you've suddenly developed a passion for home maintenance, but because it gives your hands a purpose and your mind a rhythm. There's a quiet dignity in looking after your own space, especially when the world outside feels more and more out of your control. In those small repairs, you find something like order. A screw tightens and your heartbeat steadies. Then one day a fourth habit slips in. You stop answering every phone call. The ringing no longer feels urgent. You glance at the name, let it go to voicemail, and call back when you're ready, or not at all. This one confuses people. They think you're ignoring them, growing distant, but really it's about boundaries. You've learned the hard way that not every conversation needs to happen. Some people bring chaos, not comfort. And at your age, comfort isn't a luxury. It's a survival tool. The fifth habit is the most misunderstood. You start talking to yourself, not just muttering under your breath, but holding full conversations in the mirror, in the garden, while making tea. You laugh at your own jokes and argue with the news anchor as if he's right there in the room. People might think it's a little bit of senility creeping in, but it's not. It's clarity. After decades of being talked over, dismissed, or not heard, you become your own best audience. Talking to yourself is no longer a sign of loneliness. It's a sign of wisdom. You've realized that your voice still matters, even if no one else is listening. And finally, the sixth habit, you start going for walks, long, aimless ones, no destination, no purpose. Just the feel of your feet on the ground, the air in your lungs, the trees swaying overhead. Some folks think it's just exercise or a way to pass the time, but it's not. It's meditation in motion. It's how you process everything you've seen, everything you've felt, everything you've lost. Each step is a quiet reckoning, and no one knows what those walks have saved you from. Each of these habits might look like nothing much on the surface. Harmless little quirks, but they carry messages. If you're willing to listen, they're not signs of decline. They're signs of awakening, because after 65, the world doesn't get quieter. You do, and in that silence, something powerful begins to grow. There's something peculiar about silence after 65. It's not the absence of sound. It's the presence of meaning. Every quiet act, every subtle habit carries the weight of decades. a private language spoken only by those who have lived long enough to truly understand what it costs to make noise. Let's go back to those long walks. You don't tell anyone what they really mean. On the surface, it's just a stroll, but deep down, it's you reclaiming space in a world that slowly tried to shrink you. The moment you leave your front door, it's a statement. Asterisk, I still have somewhere to go asterisk, even if that somewhere is simply forward. Sometimes you walk past your old neighborhood, remembering who lived in which house, who's no longer here. Sometimes it hits you mid-stride. The silence that follows a friend's absence is louder than anything. That's when the next layer of habit appears. You start noticing the small details no one else sees. A cat on a windowsill, a boy helping his grandmother with groceries, a flower blooming between two cracks in the pavement. You see it all because your mind isn't rushing anymore. You've learned that speed is overrated. When you slow down, the world reveals secrets, beautiful ones, painful ones, necessary ones. And then comes the quiet rearranging. This is the seventh silent habit, hiding in plain sight. You begin giving things away, slowly, casually. A book to a niece, a watch to your son, a necklace to a friend, not because you've given up, but because you're curating your legacy. You know now that possessions are just placeholders. What matters is who they go to and what they'll remember. You're not downsizing, you're storytelling without saying a word. Another habit creeps in, unnoticed by most. You spend more time just sitting, not watching TV, not reading, just sitting in a chair on the porch in the sun. You let the day unfold around you. People think you're bored or lazy, but what they don't see is the quiet work happening inside. You're sorting memories, untangling regrets, replaying old joys like treasured records. There's wisdom in stillness, and you've finally stopped running from your own company. Then one day you realize something even stranger. You've stopped correcting people. You used to jump in, "That's not what I said," or "Actually, it happened this way," but now you just smile. Let them be wrong. Let them talk. You've learned that peace is more valuable than proving a point. This is one of the hardest habits to earn. Letting go of the need to be right, because it means you've accepted that some battles just aren't worth your breath anymore. And somewhere in the middle of all this, you start forgiving. Not in a grand, dramatic way, but quietly. You forgive people who never apologized, forgive friends who disappeared, family who let you down, even yourself. Especially yourself. You start releasing weight you didn't even know you were carrying, not because they deserve it, but because you do. That's the real meaning of aging well. It's not about how many steps you take or how healthy your blood pressure is. It's about how much bitterness you can leave behind. You also develop the habit of listening more, not because you have nothing to say, but because you've learned the power of truly hearing someone. You nod at the right moments, ask questions no one else thinks to ask. People open up to you without knowing why. It's because you radiate something they can't find anywhere else. Presence, real presence, the kind that doesn't check a phone or look for the next thing to say. You've become a witness, and that is a rare gift. Eventually, you start hiding a little bit of yourself again. Not out of fear or shame, but as a form of preservation. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. You've seen what happens when you overshare, when you trust too fast, so you keep some thoughts for yourself. A private sanctuary of opinions, dreams, memories that only you visit. And that's okay. There's strength in being a little mysterious, even after 65. Finally, and perhaps most beautifully, you start laughing more. Not big theatrical laughs, but quiet chuckles, little grins. You find humor in odd places, your crooked toes, the sound your knees make when you sit, the way your cat ignores you like you're the guest. You laugh at the absurdity of aging, not because it's easy, but because you've learned that if you don't laugh, you'll cry. And you've cried enough already, so what do these quiet habits really mean? They mean you've survived. They mean you've grown. They mean you've stopped performing and started living, not loudly, but deeply. And here's the final secret. Most people spend their whole lives trying to be heard, but after 65, you realize the real treasure is finally learning how to listen, especially to yourself. If this one made you nod even once, it might be time to hit that subscribe button. And if you're feeling extra brave, drop your city in the comments so we know where these quiet habits are hiding around the world. Who knows?